Red Dead Redemption 2 is my favorite art project of all time. This game is closer to perfection than any other in history. It looks, sounds, and plays fantastic. The real brilliance of this game, however, is its story. Red Dead Redemption 2 has the best storytelling and characters in gaming's history. And what made it the best ever is the level of commitment, the amount of time and effort given to every aspect of this project to end up with a great and impactful narrative. It's easy enough to make a character say something or be someone, but it's almost impossible to make every aspect of that character's environment a part of that. To clarify what I mean, I'll use this video to tell two stories from my perspective on them. The story of the city of Saint Denis, and then the story of Arthur Morgan. Saint Denis is the biggest city in the state of Lemoyne, commonly known to be the most or maybe even the only civilized part of the state. Admirers of the city claim that it's a small part of Paris set up in America, only without all the French corruption and disdain.
I'd rather live in Saint Denis. Yes, I'd rather live in Saint Denis.
Saint Denis has all the races, classes, and characters you would expect to live in a city like this one. The upper class profiting from oil and illegal moonshine dealing allowed by the corruption of the town's politicians, the homeless kids that were pretty much born and raised on the streets, the petty thieves, the women with dubious morals, the do-gooders of the town, mainly church folk and donation raisers trying to fix as much as they can, and of course, the vampire. Obviously. The city existed for more than a century by the time the game events start, but it was heavily damaged and on the verge of extinction during the American Civil War. It was brought back to life, however, through the funding of a big oil businessman by the name of Leviticus Cornwall. Why?
Because she's just such a great person.
No, that's not why. It was for his own eventual profit, of course. Saint Denis is a big factory town by the time Arthur walks into it. Every aspect of its policies and government force is used to protect the industry in it, ensuring that the owners of those businesses get the profit that they were promised, no matter the consequences. The oilmen aren't the only people benefiting from this city's corruption too. They also brought their cute friends with them. The sugar plantation slavers that created an underground slave trade function in Saint Denis to help kidnap people and send them to islands where they can work high-paying, totally non-degrading jobs. And all of that isn't just told to you as a player, you get to see it and experience it yourself while controlling Arthur and even John afterwards. The city initially looks and feels like a beacon of opportunity and civilization, but scratch a little under the surface and you will discover the horrifying truth. Walk randomly in this town and you'll probably encounter an officer being heavily violent and oppressive against a petty thief that probably stole something to eat. Talk to a crazy scientist and find out how easy it is for him to get away with human torture as long as he picks the right candidate. And most obviously, watch how one rich man can control a city and be set loose to kill people and even kidnap children with zero consequences. And the result of this community of psychopaths and healers is a city so impressive, yet so depressing. The most advanced and cultured part of the map by far, but also the most broken and apathetic. Arthur Morgan. Arthur is a complex anti-hero, a wanted man and a no-good killer, but also deep and caring about people he loves. He struggled with this good and evil battle all his life until his sickness came along, which ironically made everything more clear to him. The struggle between good and evil was apparent throughout the game, not just by his actions with others, but also by the way he moves, talks, and behaves. Arthur was weirdly more ashamed of his good side than the bad one. He spoke clearly and intimidatingly when threatening others, but also cowered away when talking about his feelings and vulnerabilities. He was essentially afraid to be a good guy because he believes that he was unleashed to be a bad one.
But how? I mean, all I know how to do is fight, I guess. I was set free to fight.
Arthur became an orphan extremely early on in his life. His abusive dad was hanged right in front of him, and his caring mom died shortly after. He met Hosea and Dutch when he was 14. They adopted him as the first official member of the Vandalin gang. Arthur's first brother in the gang, John Marston, would join shortly after. Morgan was taught everything he knows by Hosea and Dutch. Reading, writing, fishing, shooting a gun, and basically any skill that we saw Arthur have in the game. Due to that, Arthur always saw Dutch and Hosea as father figures, and he saw the gang as more of a family than anything else. Loyalty to that family, and especially the family's leader, would be more important to him than anything. More important than actual family, as he would leave his son and his son's mom for months at a time to ride with the gang. The gang was also more important than love, as his relationship with Mary would complicate and ultimately end because Arthur can't stop being loyal to Dutch's ideas, and mainly Dutch himself. Morgan sacrificed everything for loyalty, and that's why when John confronts him about it and Arthur says this,
You know, all that ever mattered to me was loyalty. It was all I knew. It's all I ever believed in. Well, not anymore, John.
it's super impactful and more difficult to say than you might initially think. Due to Arthur blaming himself for all the things that went wrong in his life, he started convincing himself that he never was and never will be anything but a killer. Due to him blindly following what he thought he was for a very long time, negative consequences obviously came. Not only would he harm many innocent people for no good reason, but he would eventually harm himself by attacking someone with tuberculosis and infecting himself in the process. Dealing with death would make Arthur re-evaluate everything in his life, who he was and who he needs to be for the time he has left. And after listening to what the nun has to say, he ultimately decides to gamble on love. He took a chance that love exists, and he did loving acts. He helped people in love get together. He helped 3 widows get back on track, and he tried saving everyone in the gang that he can save, mainly his younger brother and his family. And that is the redemption story of Arthur Morgan. Despite everything, he died loyal, he died proud, and he died a good man. See where I'm going with this? No? Let me explain. Arthur's story is fantastic on its own, there's no denying that. But what makes it special, what makes this entire game special in my opinion, is that every part of this game is telling a story. And almost every story is serving Arthur's narrative. Not only have they created a complex anti-hero, but they created a world perfect for creating anti-heroes. I took Saint Denis as an example in this video. How many people in Saint Denis would potentially have Arthur's story or something similar to it? The odds of that happening are not low. The world of Red Dead makes sense for Arthur's story, more than any world in any video game ever. The point that the writers wanted to make was made by everyone working on the game, through design, music selection, and many other things. So what makes this game special is actually a very simple goal set by Rockstar. They simply wanted to tell a great story, and they employed every weapon they have to achieve that goal. And in my opinion, they absolutely have.